legislature. As you probably know, Florida recently completed an emergency management training exercise to strengthen the state's plan for preparing for and responding to a catastrophic hurricane. One of the scenarios considered during this exercise focused on potential options for housing the evacuees from a Category 4 hurricane that could displace hundreds of thousands of state residents. State emergency management officials suggested temporary housing such as evacuees in foreclosed homes as an option of last resort. They reasoned that such a plan could avoid the large-scale relocation to other states of people whose homes were destroyed, like those evacuees in Katrina and Rita, many of whom have yet to return to their homes. Do you have any thoughts on that? Is FEMA actually listening to this? Will they propose something like this? I have major concerns.
We've listened to it, and in fact, I was part of those original discussions of how we would look at those properties. And I think the way to approach that, and the way I would look at it, the way was looking at it originally, was that we would look at, would banks be willing to lease or rent us those properties like we would rent and lease other rental units, and do it under our traditional program. If we could acquire a rent or a lease with that property owner, whether it's the mortgage holder or the bank or the institution, and then we would look at the cost effectiveness of that rental against renting a hotel or motel room. And that's my approach. I think anything other than that gets into areas that I'm not sure, A, I have any expertise or any authorities to forcefully go in there and try to take those properties. But I think if we could sit down and look at where we do have those properties, if they're appropriate, is there a mechanism through perhaps one of the major lending institutions that has those properties? And the other thing, Congressman, are those properties ready to go? As you know, the condition of many of those foreclosed properties ranges from they're ready to move into, they're dilapidated, and it would not be usable. But look at it from the standpoint of it's a rental property. If that's available, look at the cost effectiveness versus other programs and see if that would work. But anything else, I think, goes into gray areas that I'm not sure that either we have the tools, the authorities, or whether or not it would be cost effective for us to house evacuees.
Could you give us an assessment of how prepared Florida is, specifically the Tampa Bay area, for a Katrina-like storm?
Congressman, you've heard my answer before. We're as prepared as our public is. Probably our biggest challenge is getting people to evacuate out of the vulnerable areas. And again, what we are focused on, both at our federal level, but working with our state and local partners, is life safety. You know, we can rebuild communities. That's something we work to strive to do. But if people have not prepared, if people don't heed evacuation orders, then our response is not going to be as successful. It comes back to the public is part of the team. They have to prepare. They have to respond. We have a lot of vulnerable citizens out there that we should be focused on. People need to take more responsibility for being prepared. I think we have good systems in place across the nation, but it always comes back to the public is a key part of that process to be prepared so we can focus on our most vulnerable citizens, and most importantly for hurricane threats, to heed those evacuation orders early. You know that Tampa Bay is a very challenging place to even for rush hour traffic, much less an evacuation.
Yeah. Give us an example of the most effective actions our constituents can take.
The first one is if you live in anywhere, since we're talking hurricanes in the hurricane-prone areas, is to know if you're in an evacuation zone or not, and if you are, your plan should be to evacuate when local officials tell you it's time to go and not wait for the next 6-hour forecast and hope it gets better. The second part of this is all of us have responsibilities to get a plan to protect our families, get trained, take CPR first aid, and when disaster strikes, do one more thing. Once you are okay and your family's okay, check on a neighbor. This has got to be something we all understand is, you know, the survivors have to pull together. They're part of the team. They're not the liability. They're part of the resources in the community.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Thank you.